and go to the corridor gallery. All right, I think I'm going to start with this piece right here. This is Elizabeth Vorlicek. Is Elizabeth here?
Oh,
Sorry, let me get a little closer to it. Called Rescue Breathing. Reference to the medical table and trying to bring someone back to life. Very much inspired by George Floyd's death last year. And this like installation sculptural piece is in reference to that, bringing, about not breathing and trying to help bring someone breath. I think that brings us to this section here. I mean, this section is all about race and race relations today, and I'm very excited to have Jason. Jason, I don't think you've participated in Ink and Clay before, have you?
no, I haven't. It's my first
So
time.
thank you for being here today, and I am seeing
Having
a
me.
little bit of a self-portrait as well now that I see what you look like.
Yeah. That's definitely a self-portrait. It's a self-portrait both emotionally and physically, right?
Yeah.
So the title of the piece is Marked Man, because in America, as a Black man, the reality is I am a marked man, and for no other reason than my being categorized as a Black man. My shirt's black, right? But I'm not actually Black. So I exist in Black. I exist as Black in America, and as such, which is it's a common conversation right now. The violence and the being ostracized and being feared, and everything else around it. That I'm kind of entitled to all that, and I needed to make a piece that really expressed that. I don't know if I made the piece to start a conversation about a topic that people are aware of, but I didn't think people truly felt what it was to be a human being, but to be fair, simply because of how I look. You're taught to fear me in America. I'm from New York. I grew up in New York, and I know what it's like to have cops stop me and ask me if I have weapons or drugs on me in my own neighborhood. I've always been tall. I'm 6'2", and I weigh 210 pounds. The last guy was going to attack you, but I know what it's like to be feared in that way, and I see people getting killed that look like me simply because of the way they look. And I see more, as of late, especially in the last 2 years, we saw many marches, we saw a lot of pushback, especially with George Floyd, which is a beautiful thing. We saw people of, as you would call, many races, rainbow coalition of people standing up like, no, this is wrong. When I made this, that wasn't happening. This is a crime, these are crimes against humanity. And I made the pieces, I'm like, I'm human like you're human. Why don't you feel this? I figured, we need to talk about this. And I put myself out there on the line because I feel that a lot of people want to talk about it. And they may be a little bit afraid to ask or to inquire, So I had to throw myself out there because it needs to happen. It needs to happen. We had Asian people being attacked. We have women being attacked. People's rights are being violated left and right. Extreme xenophobia. It goes on and on and on. This is not my problem. This is our problem. And it didn't, for a long time, it didn't feel like it was our problem. When I see somebody get violated that doesn't look like me or share my gender, I feel it in my guts. You know, it hurts. And I would never watch somebody be attacked in the street. In New York, we had Asian people being attacked like crazy, right? We had Muslim women being kicked down the stairs in the subway after 9/11. Like that stuff is, I feel that in my guts, and I don't know why everyone doesn't feel it in their guts. It needs to stop. I feel like you need to feel it in your guts. Otherwise, it's not gonna stop. It's not a headline. So I made the piece because we need to talk about this thing.
You're right, Jason. You're 100% right. The entire time you've been talking, I have been tearing up. I'm agreeing with you. I'm nodding my head. Yes, sometimes we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. I think we do feel it. I mean, some of us do feel it in our gut. Don't want to speak for everyone, but I feel it. I feel for you. I feel for anyone of color. It breaks my heart. I come from a family of immigrants, but I happen to be white. And I know what they went through as white people, as immigrants, much less,
That's right.
people of color, So I feel it. I do feel it. I feel camaraderie. I do.
I appreciate that. We're human,
Yeah.
and it's these labels are not they're not real. We're all human, and we get so caught up in these labels, and we get so detached from each other. And I couldn't. You're taught to think you're different. We're not, and we're not.
Jason, this is an incredibly powerful piece. I feel like everything you've said has been, you feel and see, and in this piece, I feel like you've really personified every single thing you've said in this. It's very powerful.
I appreciate it.
I second that.
Wonderful piece.
And I'm very happy that you were in the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I want to say real quick though, another part of the piece existing is, to put it out there that some people see the piece and they think I'm angry. Yeah, I'm angry, but I don't exist as an angry person. I'm actually a happy person. I actually love people.
Right.
And I had to be, the irony is I am not that, but I walk around with this. A lot of us walk around with this, not just Black people, as you said, right? You're immigrant or you're female or whatever your gender may be, right? Or your sexuality, it goes on and on and on, right? We walk with this, we carry this all the time, and it eats you up, So I'm actually not angry, I think it's quite sad. But so ironically, I'm a pretty mellow guy actually, but I get passionate about these things. I can't deal with violation of human beings or, obviously right now I'm talking about human life, so I'm going to stick to that. Anyway,
I
I
think
took a lot of time. Thank you.
you should be commended, Jason, and thank you for
Appreciate it.
sharing yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're risking it all, and you're sharing who you are and what you want to say, and your voice is being heard by at least those here, if
I
not
appreciate
more. As we look forward to next year being able to do this show in person, it'll be for everyone to see as well. And of course, anyone who wants to experience the virtual version, all of you artists, again, what I said earlier, I am appreciative of what we've all gone through over these last years. And our voices matter. They do. And we have to use them.
Thank you.
So anybody else?
I just want to say one thing. Now, I just wanted to say that this is a beautiful piece, and I do feel that that it's not at all angry, and that it communicates the spirit that you're speaking in right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. So thanks so much for that.
I really appreciate it.
I wanted to say something. Jason, it's very powerful, and the way the text covers your face and the imagery becomes just focusing in on each of the words is incredible, but especially the back of the head, that just sums it all up,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was very smart. It was because
Moving.
it's not something that you notice right away
Yeah,
until you
but
do
as soon
turn
as
to
you
the
s-
back, and
That's it. This
it
is
is.
it, you know,
Yeah.
so very moving and powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I think one of the things you've done very successfully is we all are angry about something that's happened in our lives, but we don't want to become that. We use that in our artwork, and we transform it. We take that emotion and put it into a form where we can share it with other people. And this is fantastic.
Thank
So well done.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question on the
Sure.
back. If we could turn that, Michelle.
Yes, sure. Just give me a second.
Texture we see, or is that type that is not white as well? Just to give that pronounced, it's just smooth, it's moved so quickly. I see the target.
Right.
I'm wondering, oh, okay, now I can see.
Yeah.
It's more like fingerprints and whatnot. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
You mean the texture of the skin?
Yes, I could not tell before if that was more type, but not with the white.
Okay.
Tone on tone. But I love the fact that you can see the texture, and I bet you when we see it face to face, we're going to see like potentially fingerprint. You know,
It's organic. There's an organicness to it that makes it fragile too.
Well, and humanistic.
Human.
Yeah, you get that, like, this was somebody there leaving, like, you know, when you're traveling and you maybe go into, I don't know, an old historic place, and you can see the fingerprint of the person who maybe painted the place, and suddenly you're transported thousands of years to who that individual is.
Mhm.
That's what I pick up from the back of the
There's
piece.
something archaeological about it.
To the target, just it's heart rending, and I cannot wait to see it face to face. So thank you.
It's like there's an archaeological quality to it that you get when you think of the fingerprint.
Thank you. That's the application of the clay. It's so there you see rake marks, you see the different pellets of clay that I applied to develop the form. I didn't want to close the form too much. I wanted to have a bit of rawness. It wasn't about it being polished, though I feel that it's in its the modeling qualities for me. I feel it was a success for the intent. It wasn't about again, it wasn't about having a closed form. I appreciate you picking that up. Actually, the form was left open for a freshness, or to kind of to deal with the organicness of the piece. It's handmade.
That organicness and that the sense of texture gives it more life and more dynamism than if it was fully polished, kind of like a bronze sculpture, let's say. I think it'd be a totally different effect, and it's much more effective because of the texture. I think there's a certain richness that you get, and a feeling that you get from that thickness of the application.
Thank you. Also, real quick, we spent way too much time here, but it was my intent, the way in which I laid the words across the planes of the face. It is really dark. I wanted it to kind of emote like a skull, like how the nose is open, the mouth is open, and the eye sockets are open.
Mhm.
It's also it's also dealing with the not death, but to some extent you'd say maybe death, maybe decay. You know, this thing, it's fried. You know. Anyway, so
Yeah.
that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah, no, the skull-like quality is definitely there. And thank you for mentioning that too. I think that, yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out. Well, thank you so much again. That was
Thank
very,
you.
very impactful and meaningful, as I'm sure this piece is as well. This is kind of a very this whole section is dealing with racism, systematic racism, and so on, and the history of racism in this country. Is this artist here?
Yes, I'm here.
Kathy, thank you for
Hi. Hi. Thank you, Jason. I've got me all pumped up. It's like I'm not going to be able to talk about my
Thank you.
piece now.
Thank
But
you.
thank you for that. I've been doing stuff on the imprisonment of the Japanese American during World War II. And part of this is I started thinking about my aunt, because when she passed away, she didn't have any heirs. And one of the things that she had kept all these years was her yearbook from camp, because she graduated from high school in camp. And so I started thinking about, how do you memorialize people? What kind of things would people want to leave to other people who are left behind? And so then I started thinking about, why did she keep this all these years? Especially since most people who are in camps don't usually talk about their experience. It's, if anything, they'll say, oh, they'll just talk about daily life and that's about it. And they won't really talk about any political implications of it, or how they felt about it, or how the racism they experienced, or anything like that. It was kind of like, there's a thing in Japanese called gaman, which means you just kind of like deal with it and you put up with it and you do the best you can with what you have. And that's how most of the Issei, which is first generation, and Nisei, second generations, sort of described how camp life was. And so in this piece, I was thinking about what she kept and what would you bring back, right? Because all you could bring back was what you could, they box up or put back into your suitcase. And so it's this old fruit crate box. And I have a piece of glass that the suitcase is sitting on. So I put like stuff. So it's kind of like a little archaeological dig thing of things that are kind of like near the surface, but not really, that are in your memory, but you don't want to talk about them. So that kind of is, I tried to show that sort of feeling of how people came through the camps. And in the back, you can't really see that well, but I kind of painted the mountains they were in Manzanar, which is in the middle of the Owens Valley, which there's nothing there. And that's why on the side it says Manzanar, and they were kind of noted for growing apples in that area. And that behind that is kind of like the whole racism thing, where they think part of the reasons why they rounded everybody up was for economic reasons, to try to get some of the Japanese farmers out of the way. So that's why I tried to make it back into a fruit crate box. But I wanted to put that saying in the back because it relates to today. I mean, how people just won't accept other people because they look different, or because they dress different, or they have different agendas. And I wanted to put that in there to make sure that people remember that it wasn't just in the 40s that this happened, it's happening today. And it's going to still happen today unless we all try to do something about it. So that's it. Thank you.
And I think the first thing that we can do about it is talk about it like we are, and create work about it, which people can connect to and make those relationships. I think that's, having these conversations is, I think, what, at least in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I think keeping it in the limelight, keeping it noticed, talking about it until we can do something to fix it is I think all we can do is raise our voices. And I'm just gonna do the little bit of the back here. I love that you added the Made in America in the back. Again, a little sense of humor but yet it's poignant, and it's nice to see. And there is something very sweet about, your little character, with the suitcase. Sorry, I'm going to turn around here to get to the front again. you know, at first approach, it looks something like something very sweet. And then when the more you look at it, the more you realize that it's about something much deeper. And I think that that's, you know, what makes you realize how important it is to have this conversation.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this. It's incredible.
Thank you.
I love that you're bringing this conversation to the table. It's really well done. It really does hit you when you get closer to it. That's so true. It's like, wow. Love it.
Any other comments?
What, the material, is that actually an actual box or is that also ceramic material?
No, that's an old wooden box.
Uh-huh. And there's glass on the bottom that casts a reflection off of the stuff behind?
Glass
it does-
here.
Yeah, that's glass. And then I painted on the back of the box.
Uh-huh. That's beautiful. It's
And
beautiful
this
and
is a
so moving.
piece of glass as well, right?
Yes, that's
On the
glass.
back with
Yes.
the imprinting on that. And this is the ceramic component is the little girl and the suitcase.
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. All right,
Yeah.
so Mariona,
Uh-huh.
go ahead and speak to your, I know that you have a whole series of posters.
Yeah.
And what Mariona is going to be in a show next spring called Black, White, and Shades of Gray, where we are dealing with artists of all different colors, including white as well, male and female in each, you know, ethnic group, trying to create a sort of a balance, but at the same time, all artists are working in black, white, or shades of gray of some sort. So it's going to be very monochromatic exhibition, but all dealing with different issues like racism, like gender inequality, and stereotypes and so on.
Mhm. Yeah, well, basically, this is part of my illustrated history series going on, which has been going on since 1981. I'm trying to document ongoing socio-political reality and insanity or whatever is out there. And so when the George Floyd demonstrations all over the world came up and the talk about systemic racism, I tried to find a symbol and I used a quote from James Baldwin in the middle: not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced, which speaks to all the people who are denying massive amounts of denying any kind of racism in our country. And they continue and they persist and they're so worried about destroying the American myth of equality, which is not true. That's about all I could say. So,
Thank you, Mariona. Anybody have any questions? And we're going to be exhibiting your illustrated history in that exhibition. It's how many, tell us, remind me again, how many pieces are in?
138 images that began in 1981 and continue through this to 2000 to 2020. And they're all black and white, and they are issues that at the time were relevant and seem to persist in our.
Yes, I know that that's the funny part about it is that
Yeah.
how little has changed in all of the time that you've been working on that series,
Yes.
and how the same issues persist,
Uh-huh.
you know, leading, you know, from anything from the environment to gender inequality and racial inequality in this country. So,
No, you keep thinking, my God, is this still happening? I mean, you know, 20.
yeah.
But
Great. Look forward to seeing it.
that's why artists have to keep speaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mariona.
Sure.
All right. Is Mako here? I don't remember seeing her. This has to do with voting. Here in California, we have a very important election coming up on Tuesday. So everybody vote. not telling you how to vote. I'm just telling you to vote.
Yes.
And I don't think, is Diane fine here? And I think the two voting artworks have some irony to them as well. Okay, let's see here. I want to make sure that I'm
Could you
covering
go
all-
back to that one, the ballot, and what, there's a statement there? on the
Yeah,
one?
it's made as a response to the 2020 US presidential election. This was being created while it was fast approaching. If only we had more choices, more varied choices. If so, we would need to be more engaged to discern nuance and difference.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're all a bunch of fruits and vegetables. It looks like, or just shapes, organic shapes.
Oh, what, I don't know what, fingerprints?
Maybe, who knows? Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish she was here to explain that. But it is I think quite a fun, humorous piece. Again, nice to have a little sense of humor. A lot of this serious talk. Okay, is Andrew? I believe it's Andrew. Andrew Lawson. Are you here? Is Andrew here to speak about his work? All right, I'll just quickly speak for him since I'm not hearing. So this is called Higher Power, and you can see it's from the interior. It looks, it's amazing, amazing etching and aquatint. I'm just checking the media to make sure I'm speaking correctly. And let me say again, I think, yeah, it's the cathedral in Milan. I didn't want to say it was in the Vatican just because I wasn't sure. So it's the cathedral in Milan, Italy. But you could see the stained glass windows, which stained glass windows, if we've studied art history, in the Middle Ages, the stained glass windows was what told all the biblical stories that taught people how to behave and how to be, and the stories of Christ and how to be a good Christian, or how the story of Christ came about, or even the Old Testament and the New Testament. So it was often used as sort of a pictogram for the illiterate who couldn't read the Bible, but they could at least see the stories and interpret. But of course, now in place of those stained glass windows are like the current day things that tell us stories about who we are and what to believe and what to think. And you can see a lot of logos like Twitter, Facebook, Amazon logos, and just a lot of consumer products, Instagram, QR codes, a lot of different symbology that's based on all icons of things that influence us today in both communication and information. And then these two pieces are by the same artist, and we'll just quickly go through those. This one is, reminiscent of the Last Supper. And you see a few Marvel characters in there, a couple of little Disney characters, some Star Wars characters, all in place of the characters that would be in that biblical part of the Bible, the biblical story of the Last Supper. Any comments?
I love it. Great.
Yes. And then this here, sorry, let me get, this one is called Disinformation Playhouse. And again, similar to the first one, this is like a theater playhouse where we've got, Twitter, CNN, Amazon, Instagram, Google, Fox News, Facebook icons and logo types on the surface.
This piece needs to be seen in detail.
It does. And I wish there was a way we could do that, and we will in about a year, hopefully. If we can all continue to move forward with fighting this pandemic, then obviously we can come back. So is Christine this longer here? I don't believe I saw her. Howard, I believe I did see Howard.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Howard. Go ahead and talk about your work.
Okay, first of all, thank you for putting this all together. I really enjoyed the virtual exhibit. And I was a little leery about the Zoom thing, but I found hearing the people talk about their work has added like an understanding that you just don't get reading an artist statement and hearing it, like especially in Jason's case, made the impact so much stronger to already like a really powerful piece. So thank you for putting this together. I really enjoyed Amanda, Marie's, Susan's pieces, hearing them talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard.
My piece references the beginning of modernism and Dada and how similar pre-world wars in Europe resemble America today. The reconstructed appearance of text, typography, and artwork taken from the LA Times without regard for its original context or content. I cut pieces out of the paper, roughly collage them together, bring it into Photoshop, rescale it, and design it before they're converted into screens and screen printed on canvas. I like that this piece has a plurality and conflict between order and chaos. Order is achieved in the chaos of unrelated design elements in an asymmetrical layout with visual balance. And chaos is reintroduced through the order of the checkerboard, applying color indiscriminately without regard for the individual components. Thank you.
It's really an eye-catching piece, I have to say. The color choices are, and you often do these very high contrast color choices. But the overlay is interesting because it kind of forces you to really look deeper. So I think that that is very successful. Does anyone have any questions for Howard while he's here?
I just want to make a comment. I mean, this piece is really powerful. I love the composition, the use of typography. I mean, it's a dynamic graphic piece, and I don't know if it was intentional, but it's black, white, and red all over. You know, that's awesome. Like this is just, I just love it. It's just the graphic quality of it is just so powerful. It reminds me, it's just, yeah. Anyway, great work.
The balance and harmony, but yet dynamism and diversity that you have here. You know, it's kind of an educational tool on how to create something that's so diverse and yet so balanced and harmonious at the same time.
Thank you, Michelle. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Howard. Okay, so let's move on. You know, we have only about 9 minutes to 5. And I know that we still have this whole room to go. And I know a lot of artists want to still talk about their work, and I really hope that they stay on. And I would like to go past, invite everyone to stay past 5 o'clock. I do want to acknowledge my staff, however, because they are scheduled till 5. Hey guys, if you want to stay on longer, you can. I will continue to pay you for your time. If you want to stay on. If some of you have to go at 5 o'clock, I know that that was your commitment, and I understand completely. If that's the case, just text me that you have to go, and I'll be, you know, totally fine. But I do want to acknowledge my staff while we're here, because you know some of them may have to go. But we're going to come back to here, and I'm just going to give you guys a little bit better view of the rest of the space and what's left. But I do want to acknowledge all of them for all their hard work in creating this show, because Esteban was pivotal. Raise your hand, Esteban, so people see you, in doing all the marketing for this over the last year and a half, taking it over from someone else, Noah, who had started all of the graphic campaign. And of course, it has had like 12 different iterations because we had to change plans so many times. I don't know if you realize, but in the process of the last 2 years, Ink and Clay has gone through many times that we were going to be doing it in last spring, and then it was going to start in the summer, and then we were going to do it this fall. It was supposed to be last fall. I mean, we have been trying to make this show happen over the last year and a half, and we've had to do a lot of juggling with the marketing materials and changing it to adapt to plan A, B, C, and D, and even E. So thank you, Esteban, for your patience. And he's also going to be working on the catalog over the next semester. And I want to also acknowledge George and Macario and Venus, who are also here, and Emily, who have all helped, and Trinity, who's not here, and another student who's gone away on a year abroad. Her name is Grace, and Amanda, who was with us for a while and is taking this semester off, who have all worked on, in one way or another, on this show and on graphics and on the different components. A virtual exhibition is a very complicated thing to do. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of, these pop-ups all have to be arranged and done correctly. All of the, objects have to be created digitally based on your guys' photographs that we asked you to provide. Trying to create these three-dimensional objects as best as possible in a two-dimensional world that the digital media actually is. They've done a tremendous job, and I just want to acknowledge them, and particularly Molly, who I mentioned earlier, who helped to coordinate a lot for this show. She's one of my leads, as an architecture student, and this was, I think, a very good experience for her. She had previously done the St. Brocksville virtual exhibition, if any of you saw that, which was the previous show that had been shuttered. And I think by her doing that, this made this that much easier, because it was a lot faster doing this show than that one was. That one was a lot more complicated, I think, with the three-dimensional organic work that there was in that show, which made it even more challenging. But I want to acknowledge Molly. Molly, please, wave to everyone, say hello, so everybody sees you and can recognize you for all of your hard work. And please thank all of my staff for all of their amazing work this semester and this year. Thank you all. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart deeply. Thank you so much.